Yeah, did you get any feedback from last week?
Yeah, it was pretty good actually. Obviously, we did the episode on the football and faith in football, and yeah, it was nice. I think the interesting thing was we had a new audience for that episode. Obviously, we've got a few core people now that have been watching every week, but I think that really tapped into a different pocket of audience for us.
Yep.
And probably like the audience we are starting to try and like that has been part of what the aim of this podcast is. So just trying to make them interested about a certain aspect. And obviously, as we spoke about last week, faith and football and sport is a big part of a lot of men's lives. So I think it was a good way to get them in and maybe open their eyes to what's happening on the field and maybe make them a bit more curious to why their favourite athletes are worshipping God and trying to take the emphasis off them performing and saying this is all down to God. So I think it's been good.
I liked your the YouTube short you made or the Instagram short you made.
You finally got to see.
I could see the shin pads. That was so cool.
I think one of the things I noticed saying we tapped into a new audience was that we are starting to get a lot of new eyes on our videos, and we're up to 84 subscribers now, so 16 away from 100. That's going to be a big milestone for us to get 100 people subscribe to our channel and understanding that a new episode comes out every Friday.
Yep.
I think I was going through the analytics this week on YouTube, and yeah, it was saying a lot of our audience is coming and seeing an episode for the first time and maybe aren't aware that we already have 11 other episodes now. So I think the key now is to make you aware. Please subscribe down to our channel down below.
That's huge. Mate, if we get to 100, I'll be very, very happy.
That's huge, yeah.
That's good. That's 100 people.
Exactly. And that's regularly. And then on top of that, you got all these people that are coming for the first time. So with that, like, that's why we sort of now touching on today's episode. We're going to be talking about masculinity in the faith. Because, yeah, we had a lot of new men come and watch our episode last week. They enjoyed the entertainment side of things.
Yep.
Maybe learn a little bit about the faith, but I think over the weeks we've touched on certain aspects of masculinity and what it takes to be a man of faith. I think in this time we're in right now, there's just a lot of confusion about what is a man, like whether you get the toxic masculinity trait or you get the feminine trait or someone that cares about their work too much or money too much or sex too much. There's just so many different things, and this is definitely why we're starting to see the numbers in young men turning to the church. Like, it's now hitting an all-time high. And we said it last week, I think, but it was saying, I think it was 42% of men, and young men between 18 and 24 are now turning to the church, and for the first time in their recorded history, younger males have overtaken females to attend church.
Oh, wow.
Obviously, it's showing a huge upturn, 42%, and to be more than the females in that younger generation. So it's a real promising time for us. But I think we still need to do a lot more work of understanding what it means to be a man and even guiding the other men, the younger men, who maybe still haven't found the answer or are actively looking, but just they're not too sure where to turn. So...
Yeah, do you think, like, now in culture, do you think you see, is there, like, I see this personally, but with certain groups of people, but like whenever you mention masculinity, it's like people try and shut it down as though masculinity is like a bad or negative thing.
Yeah.
And like it's not required. And it's kind of like masculinity in our culture has kind of like been beat out of men.
Yeah.
And like me especially, like I've kind of had to rediscover or discover what masculinity was, especially in like my more formative years as like a young adult, even up until now, obviously. It's what we're all trying to work out. But do you feel that, Danny? Like,
yeah,
I feel like especially in like England, man, like it's...
Yeah, I think the role of the man has just been removed because I think historically to be a man, it requires meaningful work and just to protect like your family. And we're in that world and generation now where the female has been told that they can be the boss, they can work and not have families, they have a family later in life, sort of lies along the way. Obviously, there's roles for women in any job, but it's now taken away from the men when that is the role that the man is required. So when those things have been taken away of meaningful work and protecting your family, you are left with nothing. And that's where the identity crisis stems from, I believe.
And we touched on that in relation to the Harvard episode about like the lack of meaning, the lack of purpose, especially in men's lives.
Yeah.
How men who do this is what I'd say. Like, I think that culturally, and I think feminism had a massive role to play in this.
Yep.
In who knows, whatever, like the last maybe 50 to 60 years or so, however long it's been around. Like, I feel like men have taken like a back step and have been like, yeah, it's actually wrong to be masculine, or like I can't show any signs of masculinity because I'm afraid I'm going to be condemned for it, or like it's toxic, or like,
they've gone the other way and overdone the masculinity.
But I feel like the overdunning is like now more, because you had those like
you're trying to just ram it down their throats, no, I can be a masculine man.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't need authority. I can do everything on my own. Let me get women. Let me, like, the traits of a masculine man. Like, especially when I was growing up as a teenager, like I remember like the conversations at school were all about like, how many girls did you hook up with on the weekend, or like what's your list, and you know, like, and what I find even crazier now is what's the term they use? Body count? Is that what it is? like the signs of a man and even a woman, who I think, like, when you talk about body count, it's kind of like, that's more what, you know, men discuss. Like, that whole thing, it's like, that's the new marker of like, of if you are a successful masculine man, how many women you sleep with in this much period of time, like, whatever it is, bro. Like, like, when you think, it's actually like, it's the inversion of what a true man actually is, which is what we're going to get into today.
Yep. And I think before we like really get into the depth, before anyone might get put off by what we're saying, we're not saying that aggressive masculinity. I think the word masculinity just sounds like a bad word now.
It sounds toxic.
Yeah. So we're going to now demonstrate what we believe it is to be a man.
And what the church teaches masculinity to actually be.
Yeah. So we're not about to ram down your throats. We believe all men should be cocky and like slinging their money around and dominant and stuff like this. Like, and
oppressive and tyrants. I think it's actually quite the opposite. Yeah. You know, like what Catholic men are called to be.
But it requires more strength.
Yeah, it does.
So you've got the strength and virtue part. It's even a harder job, but it actually is more about sacrifice and pulling back in.
And serving. Yeah.
So, there's the give and take. So that's what we're about to go into. I just didn't want anyone to be put off thinking, we're about to have a whole hour of hearing how great men are, and like, that's not what this is going to be about.
Here we go. Toxic men about to
trust two men telling us.
Yeah, true. This is why Dan is good, because Dan tempers. Sometimes my mind just goes off in like one direction, and Dan's always like thinking, I've got to bring this guy back.
What's the audience going to be thinking?
What's this thing about my retarded friend Daniel here, my godfather? Don't know why you picked me, but thanks, bro.
Nah, you're great comedy value.
That's all I'm good for, man. Just the comedic value.
But before we let's go into some stats just to start off, because this sort of just sets the scene of
where men are at today.
Exactly that. So it's saying, obviously, with suicidal thoughts, addictions of alcohol, overdose, these instances are 3 times higher in men than in women. So straight off the bat, the ones that are feeling depressed, having suicidal thoughts, maybe even losing their lives, but also turn into vices such as alcohol and drugs. And
so I think suicide is the leading cause of death in young men today.
Yeah, so
that's sad, bro.
And I'm sure hits hard in a lot of people who listen. Like, that's going to have touched them in some friend or family along the way.
Yeah, especially like I've lost a friend to suicide. Someone I know. So yeah, it's a very. I think it needs to be addressed, though.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I think that's. We need to make it. We need to open that subject, and obviously it's a horrible thought and a horrible experience for everyone involved around it. But I believe that there is a way of trying to talk to these people and make it clear that there is ways out of their feelings. There's hope.
Yeah, and like there is hope in the despair. But I think also like what we want to try and do today is by presenting what we believe to be the correct view of masculinity by what the church teaches, it rightly orders the person to live a happier, more fulfilled, meaningful, purposeful life.
Yep.
Especially if you're feeling those types of things. Because I can say from experience, me who did suffer depression, like reorienting my life into a life of virtue and trying to live as Christ did, like the perfect man, the perfect masculine man, really like got me out of the slumber, and still does. Like when I kind of tip one way, like
every day we have a moment
it's
where
a battle.
You have a choice to make, and that it puts you in a good or bad state of mind. So it's,
I think a damning statistic here is 24% of children in the USA live without a father.
Yeah.
Bro. Which is up from 12% in 1960, and boys without fathers are 5 times more likely to commit suicide.
Yeah. So it's like, the domino effect.
Yeah. 85% of high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. 75% of adolescent patients in mental health clinics come from fatherless homes.
Yeah.
So that's what, 3/4. So like, when you think of that, like, I think this is like, for us, God willing, who may become fathers one day, and for all fathers, like, what you don't want is, I think what you do want is fathers who try to grow in virtue, who try to grow in masculinity, to be examples for their kids. Because it's like, my dad always taught me this. He always goes like, he always say like, when I teach you something, I'm not just teaching my son or my kid, I'm teaching my kids' kids. I'm teaching my kids' kids' kids, and there's that generational thing that gets passed down. And I think that's something that we have to all work towards, in a sense, And I think there's more of an awareness now, like speaking to friends who have come from like fatherless homes, or friends who didn't have the best relationship with their father, who now have children of their own.
Yeah. They're trying to rewrite.
They're trying to rewrite, and like one friend put it, whom whose name I won't mention, but he said like it's our goal to kind of like, quote unquote, break the generational curse. Like it stops with him, and now he's going to rebuild that life for his family and his son, and God willing, his kids. And I kind of found that an interesting thing, like because we sometimes like in the moment when we're doing things, we don't really realize the ramifications or the impacts that it has on others.
Yeah.
Right. Especially when you're an example to younger men, like if you're in a position of authority or power, or if you're someone that someone looks up to, you don't really realize like that every action you do is kind of being watched and is being impersonated. And I realized that, bro, when like I remember being like around a young cousin, I'd said something like, which I shouldn't have said, but it was like a passing comment to like an older cousin, and like that young cousin just assumed that was like a normal or like cause looking up to your older cousin.
Yeah.
He just started like saying the same things I said, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Like you got to be so careful of what you say.
I think it's just popped into my head, but this is why things need to be rooted into Catholicism, Christianity, the faith, because the answers are there. If we go on our own instincts and feelings, obviously everyone's got a bad example of a father, like if they have an instant with their father, but the likelihood is probably their father thought they were doing the right thing at the time, and it just didn't play out the way that they planned it to. Yeah. And it caused friction, and over time it maybe caused separation. As much as it would be easy for someone to say, I'm going to be the one that stops that curse and I'm going to start off anew, how do you know that is going to be the right way? It needs to be from something deeper and something within, and I think that's where the Bible is going to help us out, and where the faith is, because it's already got the examples there. Because if we go through the Bible quickly, some of the greatest people in the Bible all fell. And that's because, again, we can't be trusted, because we all have weaknesses. And if you think back to David, from like David and Goliath, he was like the greatest king of God, and sort of won every battle. And it took him a moment where he decided not to go to war one time and just wanted to stay back. And that was the crumbling of his kingdom. If you think of Samson, the strongest person that God ever created, again, I think he came across a woman or women. He lost his way that way. If you think of Adam, the first ever man, he crumbled at the first instinct, and that was due pretty much to his partner of Eve, and she pretty much gets persuaded to go and take the apple, and he should be the strong male in that instance and say, no, that's not for us, stay back. But he wanted to stick with the pleasures of his wife and gave in to her, and ultimately that caused the crumbling in that instant as well. There's all these scenarios. The Bible's not hiding that you can have power and you can have strength and you can have money and you can have status, but it can be taken away from you just as quickly if you fail. And we're probably all going to fail at some point, but it's how quickly can you just look back to God and put your focus on it.
Do you find that your perception of masculinity changed when you became a Christian? Like, prior to it, did you have a view of masculinity that wasn't in line with your current view of masculinity?
Yeah.
And like, how did you come to realize that? Was it your wife telling you? Like, did your wife set like a standard or?
Yeah, she did actually.
Yeah.
She just made me more aware that maybe where I was slipping up, just kept me accountable, calling me out.
Was it on those chocolate donuts? Was it one too many cookies in the cookie jar, or is that what you were taking out?
That's definitely one of the weaknesses of mine. But it was more.
Yeah.
We'll probably get to this soon, but I just didn't have an opinion of anything. I was very much, if this is what that person believes, then that's fair enough, and that's none of my business, so why would I care about that? And then, this is on the news, but why do I care about that? That's not impacting me. Just making it aware that, like, over time, all of these things probably are going to relate to us in some way or another. And if I don't have a view on anything, then I'm just a weak man. Like, I should have an opinion on things. And there'll be times where I'm wrong with that opinion as well. That's fine. And that's going to be another part when we talk about having the masculinity to say I was wrong and being able to change your opinion. Yeah. I think we get caught up in, well, I've said this now, so I've got to stick it out until the end, and I'm never going to change my mind on this because...
And ride it to the end and die on that hill.
Die on the sword.
Yeah, man. I think...
There's so many instances of what these bad traits are in men.
I remember with you, like, I don't know if we spoke about this earlier, but do you remember that time we went to dinner and we were discussing abortion?
Yeah.
And I think that was the first time
that was actually in my mind when you were I was saying it as well.
Okay, cool. Because I remember, like, you had never heard the alternate view on it. But I do remember, like, part of me was like, when I was looking at your eyes,
because we didn't know each other like deeply at that point.
I was a bit worried, like, here we go, we're going to have, like, he's going to get a bit aggressive or defensive, you know. And my assumption was because you had come from like a dancing and performance background.
Very left sort of way.
Yeah, like maybe like that culture, just from what I understand about the culture.
Yeah, definitely.
From people and friends who are in it, is very left leaning, very progressive. Very anti-Christian, I feel, as well, and that's just been my personal experience.
It's very much about you.
Yeah, the individual and finding yourself and no authority and, you know, all that stuff. I do remember, like, when I was presenting to you, like, I don't think you looked uncomfortable, but it's like you looked like, it was like a thing of like, I've never considered this. Should I?
Yeah.
And maybe that, I don't know, I wonder if that was a doorway to, like, where God's grace kind of worked through you and led you more on a journey towards faith, which we've discussed that anyway.
Yeah.
But, like, when you think of these little pockets of, like, moments where we've spoken about, like, certain topics, and we didn't really, I don't think I defended the pro-life position from a Catholic perspective. I think it was just but I think what it calls to is, like, I hope what may have been attractive to you is, like, as men, we're called to protect, and we're called to protect the innocent, and children are the most innocent of all.
Yeah.
And that's why I think Catholic men have such a, like, they care so much, because, like, if people aren't going to care about the most vulnerable and the most innocent, who are children, especially children in the womb of their mothers, men, that's when men stand up, you know? And there are a lot of men on, like, the pro-life front. Yeah. But that was just a memory I just had recalled, man, you know? But now I tend to see you, like, you put me to shame, because I'm like, he cares so much more about these things than I do. You know, I'm like, he's so much more masculine. And then I think, but that's the impact and the effect when one person stands up for the truth. Yeah. Or you, like, you know, even when like, remember you were in that conversation, someone's like, what do you do? I'm like, oh man. And you're like, I've got a Catholic podcast. We talk about Catholic. I was like, bro, the courage and the, you know, I'm always like, I'm about to get into, like, some disagreement here with this person. Yeah. But that's a masculine trait, like courage.
Yeah.
You know?
I think even just having that thought of starting a podcast, like, if you went to research on the internet, should you start a podcast? I think the main thing everyone would be like, nah, don't do it. You're going to get abused. You're going to get this. You're going to get haters. You're going to get all sorts of things. Yep. That didn't even cross my mind. I was like, I feel something now that I want to spread. And, like, this has unlocked so much of my potential, and just made me just infinitely better as a person.
Yeah.
I thought I was a good person, but I fell way short of the mark from even where I am a little bit now, but like we strive to be, which is obviously going to be perfection of Christ. But
have you run into tough situations where like you've ever been called toxic, or like someone's attacked you for
Not
something
so
you said? Like if it was something,
yeah, I would have said probably wrong things at times and come into them situations. I think as a person, I am more on that like easygoing.
Yeah.
If you said a bit more on the feminine side of being a masculine man, that's where I sat before turning to the faith. But even still now, like you joked, I'm always the one thinking, oh, how's the audience going to be thinking about it? Like for some reason in my head, I've got that caring nature of I want to make sure the person hearing my message is not feeling attacked, but like ready to accept it. So that's sort of where I think my traits come. That seems to be one of my God-given sort of skills.
Yeah.
So I think that's where I run with that, and that's where I believe like our dynamic works well, because you definitely come in with a lot more of the logic and you can back it up, and then I come in with a bit more of the warmth, and between us together we paint the picture quite well.
I think that's why my wife is always like to me, you know, like
she gives you a talking to before.
Yeah, just like, and it's funny because like we'll get into that, and she's not trying to like usurp me or anything like that. It's more just like she's like, hey baby, I know you, and I know Dan.
Yeah,
and she's
but
like,
you're just so passionate, so you get.
Yeah. She's like, sometimes I feel like you get lost in the weeds. She's like, everything you're saying is good, but don't sound like an asshole, and tone it back a bit, because she's like, I'm used to, I know you, but there are people that have never met you. You may come across this way. She's like, just put it out there, keep doing what you're doing. I was like, that's actually really. We spoke about that. I was on the way home today. Like I was like, this is what Kara said, and I was like, I think she's right, man. Because sometimes, and I'm like, she never says anything that you say. She's like, there's always on like, you know. But yeah, I guess that's the thing. It's like there are different traits that men have, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, and I think we'll go through the four, but like after, but like we're called to have, we want all four of them, you know, and like that's where virtue is.
Yeah.
We're
naturally going to be stronger in one of them, but we strive to have all of them.
Yeah.
So I reckon before we get there, we talk sort of this toxic trait of what masculinity is now perceived as, but what really Catholicism and Catholic masculinity should look like, because I think in a past episode we spoke about like the manosphere. We've had examples along the way of like your Andrew Tates, or like even back in the day of Russell Brand saying like sleeping with as many women to that gives you the feeling of being a man, or drugs, abuse, whatever it may be. But that's just painted this bad picture of the word masculinity and being a man. And it influences the younger generation as well, because I actually don't know too much about Andrew Tate myself, but there's no doubt like he has a big movement of young men following him, and it's not me saying everything he says is wrong or right, but he's definitely got good points and bad points, I'm sure. But there's something appealing about the way he portrays himself to the younger generation.
And I think that's the problem when I feel like when authentic masculinity is attacked, you get like you said from the beginning, like you get either side of the coin, which is like either real soft men that retreat and go back into their hole, or you'll get the complete opposite side, which is like, we hate women are the cause of every person's demise, women are lower than us, they're scum. And then that's when you start to get the objectification of women. Like, because I think part of what Andrew Tate did was he had like a webcam thing, and he was kind of pimping out girls, and people would say that wasn't true and whatever, but he was objectifying women. Like the way he talks about women as well is not something that a Catholic man, or it's not anything a Catholic man should think or say about women either, right? And I think that's what happens. Like people get like, for someone like that, he should not be an icon for true masculinity, and that's where our culture kind of gets it wrong.
Yeah.
And in conversations I know that I've had with mates, it does end up kind of going down like the Andrew Tate route, you know what I mean? But then it goes down the complete opposite route as well, which is like the real effeminate, like, I don't want any opinion, I'm just going to stay out of it, you know?
Yeah. Or just really, you end up backing down to the females in and around your life, which we need to serve side by side to each other, but you just they end up dominating you, and,
Yeah.
and they actually lose respect for you themselves.
Yeah.
Like they know that a man should be the one leading a woman, but if they feel like they've got the power over you,
Yeah.
they'll completely like brush you aside. Like they've got no respect for you at that point.
Yeah.
I think that was something sort of Maria mentioned to me early on. It was just more that case of, if you're always allowing them to have their way and give them what they want and never challenging them, then they actually do lose the respect of
The women lose the respect for their partners.
partner.
Yeah.
And ultimately then they'll probably resent you, and then that causes the division of divorce, separation. Then that goes into the vices of alcohol, drugs, suicidal thought. Like all of that stems because you've backed down from your original task of being a leader of a family and having purposeful work. And
and I think like Jordan Peterson used to say this as like a marriage counselor. He was a marriage psychologist counselor, and he would counsel like hundreds of couples. And he said the one thing that he determined by his data that he collected from speaking to all these women, and he was a psychologist. He goes, the one thing that he found was that men who never took initiative or never took like the authority, like that were never the authority in their home, in the sense of not being like a tyrant, but like obviously exercising prudence and doing which we'll go into, the right things what a man should be doing. The wives never respected them. It was very hard for their relationships to bounce back. Their children never respected them. And they thought it was so much easier for them just to kind of like give, my wife will do anything. He goes, but what he found was ultimately the women were so unhappy, right, compared to the women who were submitting, meaning under the mission of their husbands, and who had that relationship of, we understand the different roles that we play, and the woman wasn't trying to usurp her husband. Like the relationships where the woman wasn't trying to usurp her husband were way more happier than the women who dominated their husbands, right? Because the women never respected exactly what you said, their husbands in the first place. And he just noted that as like just through like hours and hours, hundreds of hours of like clinical, meets with couples. So.
Yeah, I think then pulling it to what masculinity is in the Catholic faith is, it's not that you're softer than, let's say, the people in the manosphere or anything, but it's that you're able to die for your wife, for your family, for yourself, and you're actually having to give for those around you as well. You're offering yourself, you're suffering, you're pulling back, but you're also giving yourself to whoever needs it. You're there as a leader, you're there as a husband, a dad. And I think there was Jason Evert, was that his name?
Evert, yep.
Evert. He said there's no such thing as toxic masculinity, because if it were masculine, it wouldn't be toxic. And by that he's meaning the traits of being masculine are the things we just described, but there can't be a toxic element to it, because the toxicity isn't masculine. Those are the things that are actually aren't being a man. They're the opposite things. So the two can't coincide together. You can't be a toxic masculine guy, because to be a masculine guy, you need to have all of those other parts that we've just spoken about.
And that's the paradox of Andrew Tate, which is like he diagnoses real problems, right? But then he prescribes poison.
Yeah. We'll still talk about all of the women and having the status and
the money, be a billionaire, show me your Bugatti. How many women you like look at you, you're fat this, you're fat. It's like it's a complete opposite, bro. It's like,
and if you have those things in your life and you've like earned them and stuff, then that's great. But to live your life by those things and let them things be the image of what your life is, that's where it becomes out of whack with keeping your eye on the goal.
Yeah. And earlier I mentioned like usurpation. So like usurpation is the sin that the church fathers say Eve kind of got stuck with after the fall, which was by giving like Adam the apple.
Yeah.
It was like, here, take this, eat it.
Yeah.
It was like a usurping of his authority. And when he took it, he kind of gave into that pleasure of his wife, right?
Yeah.
And I think I had to mention that because like I use that term, probably just not realize maybe some people don't understand what that term means, but like, what happens on the cross, what Jesus does is the inversion and the redoing right? Or the remediation of what Adam did in the garden.
Yeah.
You know? Because like we know here, like Adam chose pleasure over sacrifice in the garden. Jesus chose sacrifice over pleasure in the Garden of Gethsemane.
Yeah.
Adam avoided the difficulty. Jesus ran towards it. Adam blamed his wife, right? And Jesus forgave the people who were killing him.
Yeah.
The crown of thorns is the exact inversion of working in the thorns. Now, like you work by the sweat of your brow, that's what it says. And now the sweat of blood is the exact inversion of working by the sweat of your brow. And I think people look at the cross and sometimes think like the cross is a symbol of weakness.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, Jesus had the power to stop it, but chose not to anyway.
Yeah.
And that ties into the deeper meaning of who the perfect masculine man was, which was Christ, which he laid down his life, had power, but was also meek. So do you, because prior you mentioned like Samson, David, I think Solomon, do you like, if you look at culture, where do you think men have, where do you think men are the weakest at the moment? Like, where do they lack? Where is their attachment to?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of... It's probably a mixture of all of them, all the examples, Samson, Solomon, David, Adam. It's, I think, not wanting to fight, not wanting to get involved in something maybe that might cause some uncomfortable feelings, maybe get in a conversation that they're worried that an outcome might not be how they want it to go, upsetting their partner. All these things are like small sacrifices, but in the grander scheme are probably the message you need to give. And if there's a time where you are quite scared about the words you need to say, it probably means they're needed to be said. And
that's good advice.
I think they're the conversations we try to back out of. And these are going to fall into the four categories we're going to speak about in a moment. But I think we've been blessed that we're in a world now with a lot of luxuries and a lot of comfort. And it's just now way too easy to sit in that comfort rather than go out on the fields and work and provide and show up every day to your partner, your friends, the church. There's just way too many distractions and pleasures that we can now obtain. So, yeah, it's not saying that we're in an easy time to live by this, but I think it's trying to take some time back and look at a bigger picture and what can you sacrifice in your life that isn't really bringing you any... It might be bringing you short-term pleasure, but it's not bringing you any fruits to bear in the future. I think.
What was one thing that you kind of gave up, you feel, over the years or even recently, that kind of, I don't know, that kind of opened up the doorway to you, I don't want to say feeling more masculine, but like kind of made you realise you were more masculine? You know, was there anything in particular that you had to give up?
Yeah, I think I said it like in the past episodes, but I'd probably say like my biggest vices would be, or actually like the biggest thing would have been pornography. Definitely, I wasn't even thinking about that, but that's definitely something I think all young men
definitely
are attached
to.
Have
you ever met, I don't think I've ever met a young guy, like any of our friends, like when I'm thinking like, if in the past, I don't know how, like, let's say 5 years, soccer team, probably gone through like 50 players, people at church, people at work. I'm just giving like groups of people.
Yep.
Obviously, I haven't had that conversation with every person or whatever. But I don't think I've ever met a young male, who hasn't struggled with a porn addiction. No. Have you? Oh, no, I haven't.
No.
And how casual.
Well, it's just a part of life.
Yeah.
And
how sometimes you find yourself having just the weirdest conversations, not realizing this is a conversation I shouldn't be in. You know what I mean? Like, not that you're approving it, but like it just comes like guy talk.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I shouldn't be talking about this. This is a, you know. But like I've kind of like it kind of like trapped in the back of like your mind, maybe from like years of exposure or something, you know.
Yeah. And I was just never even aware that it was a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the trap falls, that you're being lied to, like the devil's greatest lies by telling people he doesn't exist.
Yep.
It's that of pornography is there as an aid to you. It's there to help you learn about sex or understand how to have sex or the beauty of women or whatever it may be. But it's the complete inverse of all of that.
Yeah.
And you don't realize how attached you are to it until you try to give it up.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize it was a thing, or I didn't,
or it was bad, or whatever.
I wouldn't have ever said it was an addiction.
Yeah.
And it probably wasn't an addiction, but it was in a real comfortable place in my life where it was just part of the week or part of the month, whatever it might have been, or just on days where I'm really not wanting to do anything, like it hits you when you're at your most like sloth-like or unproductive feelings.
Well, I remember when I first did like an examination of conscience when I was like 17 or 18. I'm like, pornography is a sin?
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And that was after a conversation with my teacher, you know, who was telling me like, yeah, man, like, and he explained it, but I was like so shocked. I was like, because it was so normal culturally, bro, like so normal that like people wouldn't even consider it to be wrong. How many conversations do we actually have with like mates about like you're married, you can't masturbate and watch porn?
Yeah.
They're like, nah, I do it all the time. You're like, bro, with you, like, you know?
It's like, I think we joked the other day in the conversation, and we were like, to one of the boys, we were just joking, and we were like, so who's your top 3 porn stars that you like?
Yeah,
and then they would just like list 3, and everyone would be like, oh yeah, I know her. Like, but they would all know them all. Like everyone would know everyone they say. So that's how it's like a movie actress. It's just like you knew who those people were.
Yeah.
So it just shows how casual like it really is.
Yeah.
But going back to your question, I don't even know where that just came from, but 100% that's the thing that's so far the thing that I've given up that has made me feel more of a man, because I've become more strengthened in my body, not allowing the flesh to take control of my desires.
Yeah.
And that's definitely one of the first big steps of being in control of who you want to be. Yeah. Because if you let your desires take over every time, you just that just shows the weakness within you.
And that's why, like, for everyone, fasting, not just men but women too, like fasting is so important for that reason. Like subject your lower appetites and your passions, and to get them under subjugation, like to control them, so that you don't end up committing those same vices that you have.
Yep.
And that people tend to find that naturally when they go and do like intermittent fasting and stuff like that. Danny, I find anyway, but yeah. So we like there's also like currently like we know there's like a crisis, intergenerational crisis.
Yep.
With fatherlessness in the homes, and we touched on that like statistic. But yeah, like we know, like the data said before, like boys suffer more than girls when fathers are absent.
Yep.
Right. We know that there's like a male disadvantage, and it becomes intergenerational, working through the generations, and that men with the absence of fathers there's a 55% increase in the likelihood of divorce in the next generation, but that's more than half. So you get 1 in 2 people, one couple out of those two are more likely to get divorced.
And I was reading, I think it was Father Rippinger, he was actually talking about that point, and it's something we said earlier, but he was like, when the father is absent or leaves the child, especially the son's life, they go one or two ways. They either become really effeminate and turn more into that, I don't care and I'm just going to sit back and just not fight for myself, or you go to the extreme of that toxic trait of, I'm going to prove them wrong, I'm going to really go and push everything.
And can I just define effeminacy? So, like, effeminacy is not, we're not saying like feminine. That's not what effeminacy is. So, St. Thomas Aquinas would describe effeminacy as an unwillingness to put aside one's pleasure in order to pursue what is arduous or difficult, right? So, like, a common example I would give is like you're living at home and your mum's like, can you please take the rubbish out? But you're watching TV.
Yep.
The pleasure and the attachment is towards the TV.
Yep.
There's an unwillingness to put aside that pleasure for a moment just to take the rubbish out.
Yep.
And I remember this when I was young. I would argue it. I'm like, not now. I'm watching. I literally had to walk 10 meters.
Yep.
Get up, walk 10. It would have been so much easier
just to do it.
And picking it up, put it in the bin.
Yep.
Then coming back.
Yep.
And coming back, then just like, like arguing with it, causing this big argument, fight, blah, blah, and I just want to take the rubbish out, or if I do it like aggressively. I don't know. I just found that like, that would be a common general example,
But being honest, like now in life, like we both have wives.
Yep.
How many times are we probably in a doom scroll on our phone and they ask us to do something or quickly help, and we're like, in a minute, I'm just doing something. Like, you're just probably scrolling Instagram, watching another video, an hour's gone. They're like, so when were you going to help me? Yeah.
And like, my dad tells me, actually, it's a funny story because like we talk about like the intergenerational crisis of fathers, right? And the impact that fathers have on their kids. But one thing my dad told me, which was so funny, we've told this story 100 times, like when we're around people, was when he was young and his father was building their house and my dad's job was to clean all the old bricks, right, before the bricklayers came the next day. My dad was like 11 or 12, like would come home from school. My grandmother would have like his little clothes ready to start cleaning bricks. And there were like a group of people that came past. There was like a group of his friends that came past on bikes. And like, come on, come play. And my dad's like, no, I can't. My grandfather was like, keep cleaning bricks. Just keep cleaning bricks. But like my dad was like, man, I want to go, like, you know, I gotta do this, but I've got to do that.
Yeah.
And like he had this moment of like, you know what, Dad, I'm not helping you clean bricks. And my dad just explained, he just felt this go straight past his head, you know. And Italians crazy back in the days. My grandfather like threw an axe at him and it missed him. Right? I know, bad, right?
I thought you were going to say his shoe.
No, threw like an axe from the top of the roof. And my dad goes, and my grandfather says, like, I'm doing this for you. Like, you have to be a man. You have to look, like, this is what you have to do. And I was like, what'd you do? And my dad's like, I just kept cleaning bricks, you know, I did that, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's an extreme example of a lesson, right? But like, that's the impact like fathers had, like the value of hard work, the value of putting aside the pleasure of going on your BMX bike to realize, hey, I'm building a home for you and your sisters that you're going to live in. Right?
Yeah.
I know it's the extreme case.
No.
Like,
But
what I mean is like,
well.
like even like that's the issue when we spoke about like fatherless homes, the impact it has on kids. You know, and like looking at my dad now, like hard worker, like, and then he passed that on to me. He never threw an axe at me.
Yeah.
Thank God. So, Dad, if you're watching this, I promise, no, he's never thrown an axe at me.
Don't get any ideas.
Don't get any ideas, guys. But yeah, like the whole point is like he instilled the value of hard work in me too.
Yeah.
You know, when I started working for him. And yeah, I don't know. I just it's yeah.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question of, is there anything from your own experience with your dad that he instilled in you of what it is to be a man, whether that's good or bad? But
yeah, I think just even on like the hard days showing up, you know, especially like putting aside that pleasure, like just getting through the tough days of like, you know what, we just got to get it done, because I learned tiling from my dad. And it's a very laborious, like, you know, job. And obviously there's many and multiple things, but one in particular would be that was just the, like, I know you want to go home, I know it's hot, I know you got your girlfriend waiting for you, like, to go to the beach, whatever, but like, we've got to get through this day, you know? But not just that, he's a very giving person, right? And that thing of like, it's better to give to those who have less because we do have more. And he's a very generous person. And I think that like, I'd like to think I'd taken that on. Yeah,
definitely.
You know, that's why Dario he made that joke about like shouting beers all the time. It's a funny video, that one there. But what about yourself? Do you think your dad's like had some impact on?
Yeah, definitely. I see a lot of myself in what I've seen from my dad, and again, where I feel like my dad's strengths were leading by example.
Yep.
And naturally, I think that's how I live my life now, of trying to lead by example. But I was just a witness to watching him work really hard in the pub. Like, he was down there all hours of the day, morning, night, late at night, barely any sleep. But then the first one up to start the day, sort of collect the deliveries, but then also trying to like be there for us and the family, providing for us, taking us away, whatever it may be. So I saw him, like, his sacrifice to his work. But there was definitely times where I remember like having a paper round as like my first job, and like I hated it. Like it was like slave labor to me. Like I was like, what
is it, like a newspaper round?
Newspaper round. I was just after school having to drop off every house, whatever route you've been given. And I remember just one day like having enough, and I'm pretty sure I was like pretty much crying on the phone to him, like, I can't do this, Dad.
Yeah.
And he was like, fine, I'll come out and help you. And he helped me finish off the paper round, and then he to be fair, the story actually wraps up nicely, because he then drove me back to the shop, and he was like, right, you got to go in there now and tell him you're quitting, because you obviously can't do it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of like reverse psychology.
Yeah,
like,
it's a lesson.
He's like letting me know I was a failure at that point.
Yeah. But not just that, also like to the point of like as a loving father does and is, you know, like that there's that passage in the Bible. It's like, you know, what father, if his son asks for this, would give his son a scorpion or a snake? You know what I mean? And it's like, he still came out and helped you and said, all right, let's do it. But then he also like put the responsibility back on you and be like, no, you go in there. I'm not going to do it.
I was like,
be a man.
You tell
That's
him?
a beautiful lesson, you know? Like, he helped you, but then he's like, it doesn't stop you, mate. Like, you have to take some form of responsibility. And I find like But you are probably one of the hardest workers I know. How many jobs do you have? You have like 4 or 5 jobs? Tell me.
At some points.
At some points, man. Like, I'm like, what are you doing? You're like working. I'm like, it's 12 a.m. How are you working? You're like doing a gig. Be home at 1:30. I'm like, what time do you start work? You're like, we're going to be up at 4. And I was like, bro, you do not sleep. You don't sleep.
Yeah.
So obviously hard work. But like the thing destroying men is effeminacy, right?
Yeah.
And we've been saying this whole podcast, we're going to get to the types.
Yep.
Or like, so Danny,
Shall we do it?
Yeah, go through it because we've arrived here.
All right, so yeah, this first part is pretty much what that effeminacy part is. It's the sensual part. So the body rules the will. And this is kind of what we touched on. The man who can't put his phone down, can't skip a meal that they want, a dessert they want.
Or the alarm.
Or sleeps through their alarm, snoozes it all morning. They can't get up. Snooze.
It's dangerous.
They say they're going to get up early in the morning and whether they're faithful or not, have a morning prayer or a morning ritual, but then they snooze their alarm and then they got 5 minutes to quickly get ready for work and they straight away they've started the day on the back foot.
They can't say no to porn. They get the inclination, the thought, the desire. They get aroused and the first thing they want to do is masturbate. You know, they can't control that.
That's type 1. That's the sensual part of things.
Yep.
Type 2, this is appetitive. So emotions lead instead of reasons. So this is sort of the people, like it says, they allow their emotions to take over. They're hot-headed. A bit of good news, a bit of bad news could make or break your day.
Yep.
You might get fired up, real angry, real easy. Like the smallest thing, you flip your lid. You can't control your emotions.
Like, after I had like watched like and learned about this years ago, and it changed my mind and my perception and my perspective. Like when we'd go to soccer, and you'd see that one guy that would just blow off his lid, and you like from the stupidest thing, and he was like getting emotional and like crying and like he'd just want to bash people and you like had to control him.
But some people think that's what being a man is.
Yes,
like emotional and like passionate.
And I was always the type to just be like. Just watching, like, aren't you ashamed? Like, now I'm like, I used to be like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro, how embarrassing.
Yeah.
I was like that. And I'm like, I would not want people to see me like that because, like, people look at you and, like, no one has respect for that. Like, let's be real. Like, no one has respect
that's
for it.
embarrassing.
You end up saying, like, you end up ruling it.
Or you go, like, oh, imagine being his wife.
Imagine
like,
being, yes.
They're the things that go through your head. You're like, wow, like, you're a joke.
It would be like St. Joseph, silent, like a saint.
Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah.
So that's type 2. Type 3, intellectual. So comfortable beliefs over costly truth. Again, we touched on this, and it sort of goes 2 ways. It's either the person who has an opinion on something and they can't listen to any reason or logic. Like we've all heard things as kids and maybe we've then believed that throughout into our adulthood. Yeah. But that could have been the wrong bit of information back then, but nothing can change your mind. Like you're like, no, I believe that. That's what I got told. And like, I'm not going to change my mind about it. And you could give them all of the evidence. Well, honestly, the Catholic faith is the main point of this. And
it's like that type of effeminacy is like it's the intellectual assent without the follow through. It's like I've come to know, I've come to know that pornography is bad.
Yep.
But I've come to know that, but I'm not. I don't think is it. I can't follow it. That's too hard. Like even if you come to know it through your full knowledge, and your understanding of why it's grave, depraved, objectifying women, and you still just you come to know the truth of the Catholic faith.
This one time won't hurt. I'll just do it again.
Yeah, or like the truth of the Catholic faith. It's like I'm afraid of what I'm going to lose, so I'd rather just stay in where I'm at. Yeah,
I'm comfortable here.
I'm comfortable because it challenges. It's challenging.
Yep. All right, and then we've got type 4. So this is like the volitional. Your self-will above anything. So you're kind of just living for yourself. You're the man. You're the guy. No authority can sort of break you down. You're just going to defy all odds, and you're going to do it all on your own. And like this is back when we're saying what we're called to do as Catholics is to submit and to give and to know that there is going to be suffering, and we're going to give everything up we can to for the bigger goal. This person sort of laughs down at them and thinks that they're the weak ones, whereas the strength it actually takes to show your weaknesses, to show your suffering, to show the love you got for someone. That's
the sin of pride, right? Like obviously pride is the start of all sin, but like that one in particular, Dan, because like Lucifer said like I will not serve, and that's exactly what that is.
Yeah,
it's like something beyond yourself, bigger than yourself, Christ, right? Mm-hmm. Like we have to be we are under his authority. And as Catholics, extended onto that, we're under the authority of his bride, the church. And that means like part of that as well is like, I find this when I talk to people about like Catholics especially, it's like, yeah, like we have an obligation to go to Mass every Sunday, right? Keep the Lord's Day holy, okay? Not like we do it out of love for God because we want to go to the Mass, but also we are under the mission of the church whose goal is to get us to heaven, and we are under the authority of the church, right? Who is Christ's bride. And I hear Catholic like, no one's going to tell me what to do on my Sunday, my day off. It's like, bro, it's an hour. Like, 45 minutes max, man. Like, sometimes you can do masses in 25 if you want. Like, you got to speed mass.
Yeah.
But, like, that in and of itself, like, I don't know, like that. I'll be honest, there were times in my life, like, I can probably say I've been effeminate in all 4 areas, and they still creep up into my life in certain parts. But like, I remember like when I took my leave like last year for 6 months, I spoke about it in the previous podcast, like that was a big thing of mine, which is like, I'm my own authority. I'm on my own time.
Yeah.
But that became toxic in and of itself because like you forget, no. Like you're also called to be of service to others, you know? Yep. You're also called to be with Christ, to pray, to do all these things, you know? Because I was like, I want to regain my own time because I kind of fell into that whole self-help thing we were talking about, remember?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know, I find that to be the self-will above everything. I think that's a very, very common one now. I'm seeing more. Yeah. Personally.
I think we always think like maybe there's one vice, like lust or greed or pride or gluttony. We think one of them might be the biggest cause of all of this downfall. But I think that can all be put under one umbrella of it's just softness. Like you're unable to push past the boundaries and the weaknesses you have. You're just backing down into that effeminate state and allowing the comfortable behavior to take over because it's just easier. Like, again, we said we're living in a world where it's very comfortable right now. So it's just much easier to sit back and say, well, this is what everyone else is doing, so I might as well just do it as well. And it's not really causing me any harm. Like, what does it matter if I watch another video? Or what does it matter if, I eat another biscuit? Like,
what people don't realize is that, like, what the church is teaching about these things is that it's not to repress you, it's to free you.
Yeah.
Right? To live the authentic, to live an authentic masculine life. And for women, on the flip side, to live an authentic feminine life, right? By like removing yourself from the attachment to these pleasures or from the vices themselves.
So like they were like the 4, let's say like the 4 types that do it. But within that, like, because the manosphere would say they've got like the archetypes to make a man. So they would say to be strong, to be dominant, fearless, self-reliant. And like, those are things that we need as men, but like it's missing a key component, which then the faith brings in, which is that spiritual discipline.
And we touched on that earlier about like the prayer rule, for example, when we first wake up.
Yeah. And just
offering.
Knowing that that's going to lead you, because without that, you are going on your own instincts, and that's when you're just going to turn into failures. And then when them failures and bad times do happen, then what do you turn to? Because all you're told is, no, you got to be a man, you got to be strong and just push through it. But that advice only takes you so far. And when you come into hard times, what, you're going to just be a man and get out of it? Like, you need to turn to something.
You're also a human. Human.
So we need
human being.
That extra thing. And so like, they've called it sort of the warrior monk. So what the church actually produces, but with that, you want to be the warrior. So they're the things that we just said, like strong, dominant, fearless. You want those attributes, like they're going to be really important as a man, leading by example, protecting the family. The next archetype would be the wise counselor. So it's kind of the guide who acquires the wisdom and passes it on. So we need to be able to provide for our family, but also with faith and education. So it's not abusive or harmful. You need to be able to give to your family as a father and as the head of the family, but not as like a dictator. You're not just forcing them with no sort of reason. Like you need to be able to educate along the way as well.
Like one who serves but leads.
Exactly that. The next one it actually says is like the king. So he is the leader, but he knows what everyone's role should be below him as well. And as a whole unit, you're going to get the goal ultimately, but you need to be there as the leader, as the king, to make sure everything's going to plan, that everyone's in the right positions in their lives, and to ultimately sort of rule over the family in a sense of that if anything does go out of whack or out of plan, that you're there to be able to give a reasoning behind it and to keep your family on track. So I think that's important. But then the final part is the lover. So the man who treasures the woman in his life and gives himself totally. So this is, you need to be able to give yourself up. So we said the king and we said like the warrior, but you need to be able to give yourself up. You need to feel love. You need to work on your marriage, establish a good connection with your partner. And then obviously that then flows down to your children and those around you as well. But the warrior without a lover is just a tyrant. They're just going at it all the time. And the lover without a warrior is just a pushover. So that's that sort of state we said a lot of people are in nowadays, that they've just become a lover, but they've got no fight in them. And those are the type of men that the women
never respect.
Yep. That's it. I think we had like an example of, obviously, is it Maximilian Kolbe?
Kolbe, yeah. It was a Franciscan priest who was thrown into Auschwitz, but he offered up his life. I think the story went, someone escaped, and the punishment was like, for every one person who escaped, we're going to kill 10 prisoners. And they said they put them all in prison. They starved them to death. And he stood out. One person got selected, and the person who got selected to die by the SS guard said, "Please don't. I have a wife. I have a family. Don't kill me." And he said, "Look, I'm a Catholic priest. I'm not married. I'll take his place." And he took his place. And I think, was it like 14 days? There was some amount of...
it was like, a couple of weeks at least,
and he just wouldn't die. His spirits were so high, and he just heard confessions in there. He spoke
Everyone else ended up dying around him.
Everyone else ended up dying. And because he just wouldn't die, they just injected him and killed him. But like that is... And I think 41 years later, that same person, when he was released, the same person
he rescued.
that he offered his life for when he was released from Auschwitz, ended up witnessing Saint Maximilian Kolbe's canonization as a saint. You know, and like that is the true call of like laying down your life for another. And we're called to do that every day, not just physically in the sense of like death, but also our own selfish desires for those around us, those who we serve, those who we lead, whether it's at work, in our families, amongst our friends, in our teams, whatever it is, you know. And I think Saint Maximilian Kolbe prayed for us. Like that is like... Bro, what a mad saint he is, eh?
Another example I actually quickly saw was Thomas More, and this is like a different way of...
He's one of your kinsmen.
That's why I wanted to bring him up. One of the Brits.
He's an English boy,
one of the Pommy guys. But this goes back to standing up for what you believe to be the truth and giving a voice to it, and not just backing down because of the pressure. But this was back in the time of Henry VIII, and back into the time where he was trying to advocate being able to divorce.
And the king asked the Pope, he's like, I want to get a divorce. And the Pope's like, well, God has joined together, let no man put asunder. I can't dissolve your marriage.
So then he turns to Thomas More, he was a high judge and lawyer in England. So he was trying to use him and be like, look, come on, you can do this for me. Just do it, like it's fine. And he said no as well. And he was like, I'm just going to behead you if you don't. Like, I'll bring someone else in your power who will allow me to do it. So just do it for me. He's like, no, I stand by the truth, and the divorce isn't allowed. Ends up getting beheaded, and in his final words, he says, I died a king's good servant, but God's first.
Oh, wow.
So he was like, look, I've always been loyal to you, and I'll do anything for my king, but...
Doesn't it make you realise just how
God is first.
Like how much better we need to be.
I know.
And like these men, they carried crosses far heavier than we are now. Like to the point of death. And I think we pray that like one day we have the courage and the virtue. But like it's built. That's the thing. Like God will give you the grace, but it's also built through habits, good habits. Right. And like that reminds me of like the cross is not a symbol for weakness. It really is a symbol of a man who knew what was coming, and he still chose it. Had the power to stop it, but didn't. he was in the worst moment of his entire life, and he held to the truth and to his mission that he was sent to have or to do, and was asked to die for people who did not deserve it, including you and I and everyone who's watching this, and he still did it.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate. And God, like, descended, became man. I keep pushing that point because it's such an unfathomable reality that God will become man for us to give us the perfect view of what it means to be a true human being.
Yeah.
And for men and for women, especially like God, for men more in particular, because we're talking about masculinity, like if you want to look at the virtue of masculinity, we have to look to the cross and what we see on the cross, right? Because we say like he destroyed death by death. Amazing.
Yeah. So I think that really wraps us up of the differences of the masculinity tag, obviously not from a cultural point of view because it's seen in such a bad way, but obviously from a faithful Catholic way. And I think when people oversee what the Catholic faith asks of us, they say, why are we restricting ourselves so much? And why do we allow so much restriction in our faith? Like, that's not living a life. But we actually see this as our armor. Like, these are the things that are actually protecting us in the long run. These small pleasures, they're not providing for us. But if we can master those small things along the way, when it comes to the big things, we're in a place of strength and we're ready to go to war. And that's just pretty much the mastery of our body and our thoughts along the way. So I'd say, what were you?
I was going to say, I think that like it brings us back like around full circle of like, what if I was to tell people like watching this, sin carries guilt and shame, but God is merciful, and being a man is recognizing your wrongs, admitting to them, and resolving not to do them again, right? And that's just being a sinner, right? Like, we're all sinners, but we're also called not to do those, not to continue in those sins. And like, that's why we have the sacrament of confession, right? Like the call, and we're called to that. We're called to go to that.
And how freeing is it to do confession? Like, especially as men, I think we got that stigma of keeping everything in and just like, again, like dying on your sword. Like, you're just going to hold this till your last moment, your last day. But every day you're like anxious, you're like pent up, and then just the smallest things might then be the thing that cause you to flip out or rage. Confession is that one thing that you just feel so free after it because God has then washed away your sins. But you've just got it off your chest as well.
And I think in the 12-step program of like Alcoholics Anonymous, I think one of them is like you have to confess it to another, like your addiction. And I think there's something deep in that, in and of itself, especially like unburdening your heart and your soul for the guilt that you've been carrying for years. That, like, for me, I like to examine like weekly, and I try and go weekly. And man, it's just, I realize the difference of when I'm like, I know I haven't been and I've been sluggish and like sinful to when I can go there, because like it's accountability, and like we're called to be accountable so that we can show up and be the best versions of ourselves for those around us. And confession is just a great first step. So get to the confessional.
But touching on what you said though, like if we say the accountability and even just speaking to someone, obviously a lot of our audience might not even be baptized Catholic or maybe even just having that friend that you can open up to. And like us being honest, like we tell each other everything now, like all of our issues along the way, problems we may face in our day, even just a phone call when we have with each other. I get something off my chest, you might get something off your chest. Again, I feel so much better. And this isn't saying that replaces confession. Like if you can go to confession and you are Catholic, then definitely that is number one. It's a totally different thing. But for those who maybe are getting eaten away with something that they're keeping within them and they can't tell their partner, but do you have that friend that you can trust and you can have an accountability partner to help you through?
And if you are the person that receives the gift of a friend coming to you, be the gift to them. You know,
don't
even when you don't,
moment,
even if you don't want to, even if they tell you something that's like, oh, that's bad. Because especially like, I feel like sometimes we can kind of be high and mighty and think, look at me, I'm not this, or, you know, but we're all sinners.
Of course.
And we all fall short.
Yep.
And being like not just going to a friend, but also like if you are the person on the receiving end of the news,
Yep.
like try and be the face of Christ to that person.
Yep.
In other words, try and be meek, humble, loving, and it kind of ties into that whole warrior monk thing, of like being the wise counselor, being the warrior, also being the lover, and this is why probably end on this, like there's a beautiful quote. Don't know who says it, but it's about priests, and people are always like, that priest was so tough. That priest is like, because people got this false perception that priests have to be these like happy go weak men. They're so nice. Because no, like, and it comes down to that quote where it's like, you want the priest to be a lion at the pulpit, like when he's giving his homilies, and that's when everyone usually gets upset at the priest for saying something, like he's so mean, whatever. Aren't priests supposed to be nice? But like, yeah, Christ was nice, but he wasn't timid.
No,
like he wasn't passive.
No,
like he said very hard things, but it was also full of love. But there's that saying of the priest has to be a lion at the pulpit, but a lamb in the confessional.
Yeah,
meek and humble like a lamb.
Yeah,
and priests are.
Yeah, they are.
And I think people are scared about that. Like they're afraid they're going to get like reprimanded or hammered.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know, man. I've always had such, bar one. But like I've had, that was my fault. The reason why the priest was being mean towards me. But yeah,
that was definitely one of the things that drew me to Father Benton and St. Michael's as well, because there was times where he got up during the homily and he just went at us. And I was like, whoa. Yeah. Because prior I'd been to a couple of other churches.
And you leave there, you're on fire.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
They were just being nice at the other ones. Like,
let me join the Templars.
Nothing too bad, but he just left me like, whoa, that's the expectation. Yeah, I need to match that. Yeah. And as he said, I then leave the church and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to fight.
Yeah. And then I feel like you start feeling more integrated. You know what I mean? Like we start to kind of find our nature and everything starts to line up. And that's when you're most happiest. I feel like when you're trying to live an authentic Catholic, I use that specifically, man. Like this is a Catholic podcast, but I say it because like the church gives us the answers. It gives us the examples. We've got thousands of saints, right? And on the flip side, for women, there are thousands of saints. The church has the answer for what it means to be truly feminine, and we complement each other, right? And when the two become one and they live according to their nature, I really believe and the church teaches this, that is authentic integration, that is happiness, and that is true love, we can say, in the deepest sense.
Beautiful. I think one thing, if you were to examine yourself, if we leave you with this, is there one thing, I think we all know there's at least one thing in our lives that everything we've spoken about either makes you effeminate, it brings you away from the truth, maybe it stops you from fighting. What is that one thing that you've probably been saying for months on end or years on end now that I'm going to try and give this up? Whether it's pornography, whether it's your social media, or whether it is showing up to mass or going to confession or just being there for your friend. Like, we all have one thing, big or small. What is it for you? And can you in this next week start the process of eliminating that weakness in your life and ultimately trying to become more of a man?
Yeah. And I think a big help is prayer. Massive.
So big.
How often do we fall short because we don't pray?
We have no connection and we have no...
Yeah, and prayer can be 1 minute. Wake up, set that alarm 10 minutes earlier.
Yep.
Pray for 1 minute. Or spend 5 minutes trying to wake yourself up before and then pray for one and start your morning.
Sometimes I'm like, why do we speak for an hour and a half when it can just be said so easily and just pray?
I know.
Because it is that simple. The amount of times I'm stressed all week about something and then I just decide to turn to prayer and I'm like, and something falls into my path that would have helped it straight away. I'm like...
And I think we said in the Harvard study, to tie it back into that episode, about is it when you pray for 12 minutes a day, your memory grows by some ridiculous percentage or something?
I can't remember the percentage, but it said that was sort of the perfect number of where you get the ultimate benefits for your brain.
Amen. Guys.
I am Dan, the Godson.
Dan, the Godfather.
And remember everyone, if you got this far, subscribe to our channel. We're so close to 100 and we have now started our podcast on Spotify and Apple Music as well. We are branching out, so you can see us on all of your favorite streaming sites. We will be there for you.
This is the greatest stage. We love yous, we leave yous. Exciting episodes coming next couple of weeks. Mwah.
See you there.